Hey, it's Chuck. Today, the Supreme Court ruled 8-1 that states cannot ban conversion therapy. And I need you to hear something clearly before your panic sets in or before somebody tells you that the fight is over. It is not over. It moved. And I'm going to show you exactly where it moved to and how to use it. The case is Chiles v. Salazar. A Colorado therapist represented by Alliance Defending Freedom challenged Colorado's law banning conversion therapy for minors. The Supreme Court, in an 8-1 decision written by Justice Gorsuch, ruled that the law regulates therapist speech based on viewpoint. Here's the core of it. Colorado's law allowed a therapist to affirm a client's sexual orientation or gender identity, but prohibited speech aimed at changing it. The court said that distinction is viewpoint discrimination. It tells a therapist what they can and cannot say, and the First Amendment doesn't allow that, nor is it good practice because I don't want them coming into my practice and telling me what I'm allowed to say to my clients. Now, on its face, it sounds devastating, and for the 23 states with conversion therapy bans on its books, it functionally is. Those bans, as currently written, are likely unenforceable, but here's the part that people are missing. This ruling does not make conversion therapy ethical. It does not make it evidence-based. It does not shield a therapist from professional consequences. It does not protect that therapist from malpractice lawsuits, and it doesn't stop you from filing a complaint with their licensing board tomorrow morning. The court said the government can't criminalize what a therapist said. That's actually good. However, it didn't say anything about what a profession can hold its members accountable for. And there's a second piece, and that's the second piece that people are missing entirely. Justice Keegan wrote a concurrence joined by Justice Sotomayor that pointed out that this ruling cuts both ways. If a state can't ban conversion therapy because it's viewpoint-based speech regulation, then a red state also can't ban gender-affirming talk therapy for the exact same reason. The same First Amendment principle that protects conversion therapists also protects the affirming one. That's great. And it matters. So hold on to that. Now, let me talk directly to the therapists watching this, because this is important for y'all. Here's where the ethics codes do what the law cannot do. And parents, you need to pay attention to this part too. Every major ethics code in our fields requires something called assent. When working with minors, assent is not the same thing as consent. Consent comes from the parent or the guardian, the person with legal authority. Assent comes from the minor, the person actually sitting in the room. The ACA, the American Counseling Association Code of Ethics, Section A2D, says when counseling minors, counselors seek the assent of clients to services and include them in decision-making as appropriate. The American Psychological Association, the APA, Ethical Standard 3.10b, lays out 4 obligations when working with someone who can't legally consent. Number 1, provide an appropriate explanation. Number 2, seek the individual's assent. Number 3, consider their preferences and best interests. And number 4, obtain appropriate permission from a legally authorized person. The National Association of Social Workers, the NASW code, says social workers must protect clients' interests even when a third party has authorized treatment. The American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, the AAMFT code, requires consent to be free, voluntary, and without undue influence. And the American Mental Health Counseling Association, the AAMHCA Code of Ethics, state directly, and I want you to hear that any therapeutic approach that impedes an individual's right to make informed choices is not in accordance with the AAMHCA Code of Ethics. Their Appendix D is an entire standalone statement condemning conversion therapy. So let's walk through what happens in the room. A parent brings in a 14-year-old and says, "Fix my kid." The therapist sits down with the teenager and says, "We're going to work on changing your sexual or gender orientation." And that teenager says, verbally or non-verbally, "I don't want this." The moment that happens in therapists, I swear to you, pay attention to this, because if not, you're going to lose your license. The moment that this happens, the therapist has an ethical crisis that no amount of parental consent resolves. You cannot ethically proceed with treatment when the client, the minor sitting in your chair, has not given assent. Parental consent does not override the ethical requirement to seek the agreement of the person you are treating. And absolutely cannot authorize an intervention that every professional body in this field has declared harmful. A parent can consent to surgery. They cannot consent to malpractice. If you are a therapist and you proceed with conversion therapy over a minor's objection, you are practicing unethically, period. And every licensing board in this country still has jurisdiction over that and you. Let me make something clear about the professional landscape, because this is not a close call and it's not a debate. The ACA doesn't just discourage conversion therapy. In 2017, the Governing Council passed a resolution declaring that promoting, conducting, engaging in, or referring for conversion therapy is their exact words, significant and serious violation of the ACA Code of Ethics. Not a gray area, not a judgment call, a serious violation. The APA adopted its landmark task force report in 2009 and followed with resolutions in 2021 on both sexual orientation and gender identity change efforts. Those passed with over 95% support. They called it an adverse childhood experience. Their resolution references prohibition on torture. The NASW has said that the practice of conversion therapy violates the very tenets of the social work profession. The AAMFT states it's harmful, unethical, and a direct violation of their code. The AMHCA, it says that they adopted a formal board statement in 2014 identifying conversion therapy as lacking any credible evidence and posing critical health risks, including depression, shame, substance abuse, and suicidality. And it doesn't stop at the therapy professions. The American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychiatric Association, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, SAMHSA, the World Health Organization, the World Psychiatric Association, the United Nations independent expert on sexual orientation and gender identity, who said conversion therapy may amount to torture under international law. This isn't an open question in any licensed profession on earth. The science is settled. The ethics are settled. The only thing that changed today is one legal mechanism. The professional accountability mechanisms are still untouched. So here's where I need to shift from explaining to equipping. If you know someone being subjected to conversion therapy, or if you are that person, here's what you can do. And none of this requires a single law that the Supreme Court invalidated. Hell, it doesn't even involve a lawyer. This is the most powerful channel because licensing boards control whether a therapist can practice. Every state has separate boards for licensed professional counselors, psychologists, social workers, marriage and family therapists, mental health clinicians, and psychiatrists. The therapist's license determines which board you file with. Here's the process. Locate the board, just do a web search, web your state, plus licensing board, plus license type, plus, quote, licensing board complaint. That'll get you there. Download the complaint form, identify the therapist by name and license number. You can look it up in any state. Describe the conduct with specific dates. Cite the ethics code provisions being violated, and submit every piece of evidence you have. Emails, texts, session notes. You're allowed to have those. You just have to ask for them. There may be paperwork charges, but you just have to ask for them. Voicemails, intake paperwork, messages, whatever. Don't delete anything electronic, because investigations take 6 months to 2 years or more. And outcomes range from reprimand to mandatory supervision to probation to full license revocation. And this works regardless of whether your state ever had a conversion therapy ban. If the therapist is a member of a professional organization, you can file directly with that organization. The ACA's 2017 resolution means that the grounds are exceptionally strong. Sanctions include required education, censure, suspension, or expulsion, and licensing boards are then notified. If it's a psychologist, key standards to cite: 2.04, basis for professional judgment; 3.04, avoiding harm; 3.10, informed consent and assent. For National Association of Forensics of Social Workers, the filing window is only a year from the date of violation. It can be extended, but please note the timeline on that. For the AAMFTs, marriage and family therapists, their full ethics committee only meets once a year, so their timeline is slow, but sanctions include permanent member revocation. So you have the grounds. You don't need a lawyer for any of this. You need documentation and a complaint form. Now, let me give you the full picture, because licensing boards and ethics complaints aren't the only tools. If a graduate program is teaching conversion therapy as a legitimate practice, you can file a complaint against that program's accreditation. KCREP accredits counseling programs. The Commission on Accreditation for the APA covers psychology programs. The COAMFTE covers marriage and family therapist programs. Everybody's standards require evidence-based training, multicultural competence, and alignment with professional ethics codes. A program endorsing conversion therapy violates all of that. Loss of accreditation effectively shuts a program down. So students with license who get licensed with a degree from an uncredited program, they can't actually get licenses. If therapist bills insurance for conversion therapy using standard psychotherapy CPT codes 90834, 90837, 90832, while delivering a discredited intervention, or the diagnosis code on the claim is for depression and anxiety, but the treatment notes describe orientation change goals, that's fraud. And where there's one, there's tons. Hit them in the pocketbooks. Reports go to the insurance company's fraud unit, the state insurance commissioner, and if federal funds are involved, like Medicare or Medicaid, the HHS Office of the Inspector General. Justice Gorsuch himself suggested in the opinion that malpractice lawsuits are appropriate accountability mechanism. He opened the door. The Ferguson v. Jonah case in New Jersey ended with a jury unanimously finding consumer fraud a permanent shutdown order and millions in damages. California just introduced SB 934, a bill that would let minors file conversion therapy malpractice claims until age 40. Civil liability did not die today. It may have actually gotten stronger. In addition, every licensed therapist in this country is a mandated reporter. If conversion therapy is causing observable harm to a minor, depression, suicidality, self-harm, or withdrawal, there's an argument that forcing a child to undergo a universally condemned harmful practice constitute emotional abuse under most state abuse definitions. So you can file a CPS report. If you're a therapist, you're mandated. So are your dentist, your teachers, your doctors, your nurses, your school bus driver. You can tell anyone about this and they can file the report. Now, I want to put numbers to this for anybody who needs them. A 2022 systematic review in Journal of American Medical Association Pediatrics looked at 28 studies and found that people subjected to conversion therapy experienced depression at 65% compared to 27% of those who didn't undergo it. Substance abuse at 67% compared to 50%. Suicide attempts at 58% compared to 39%. The Trevor Project's national study found 42% of LGBTQIA youth who underwent conversion therapy attempted suicide in the past year. For transgender and non-binary youth, 57%. A study in the Journal of American Medical Association Psychiatry found transgender adults exposed to conversion therapy efforts before the age of 10 had 4 times the odds of lifetime suicide attempts. There is no evidence that this works. The most cited study claiming efficacy was formally retracted by its own author. The APA reviewed 87 studies and concluded orientation change through therapy is not supported by the evidence. This is not a values question, it's a clinical one, and the clinical answer is unambiguous. So here's what I need you to take from this. The Supreme Court closed the door today, but just one door. They did not close the building. Every ethics code still condemns conversion therapy. Every licensing board can still investigate it. Every malpractice court can still hear a case. Every accreditation body can still sanction a program. Every insurance company can still investigate a fraud claim. If you're a minor being forced into conversion therapy, you have the right to say no. That refusal has ethical weight. Document everything. Tell a trusted adult, call the Trevor Project at 678-678. And if you're a parent watching your child be harmed, file a licensing board complaint. Contact NCLR's Born Perfect Again campaign at bornperfect.org. You don't need a law, you need a complaint form. And if you're a therapist, hear me, colleague to colleague, know your exposure. Know that every governing body in your profession has drawn this line, and know that your license is not protected by today's Supreme Court opinion about free speech. The fight didn't end today. It changed addresses. I'm Chuck, the Bald Therapist. Work on you. Take no bullshit. Remember that you matter, and have a gentle rest of your day.